I just spent 12 hours straight conquering the entire world in Old World Blues. I built a robotic war machine that crushed every enemy, from defending behind the river lines to launching massive encirclements. This is the most intense OE4 campaign you will ever see. Since our nation excels at robotic tech, I decided that I should go and depend a lot on robots for my army. And I noticed from the beginning that our nation, although very poor in manpower, we already have some advanced industry researched. That is why I decided to work on agriculture to increase my population. Next, Dallenius' cohort was looming, and I didn't have the luxury of time to build forts all over the place. So I picked 3 strategic tiles to fortify, 2 of which were behind river lines. I burned through my political power ASAP. First move was to appoint a cultural advisor who boosts political power gain, because political power is my currency for everything. So this was crucial. Then I invested in small business to get above on construction speed. Military-wise, I grabbed a theorist ASAP to get army experience quickly. This let me edit division template on the fly. Super important for optimizing my robotic and infantry combos. For doctrine, I chose refined warfare. Why? Because my robot army would take time to build, and early on I'll be stuck with regular infantry. Refined warfare helps me maximize infantry efficiency early on. I also hired an advisor for faster fort construction because I needed those forts up so quickly. Early on, my industry was rough, so instead of waiting, I bought guns on the market. I rushed the collecting specimen national focus to unlock an extra research slot. Shortly after, I appointed the person of the community advisor to boost manpower. Then I went with the Fire Ant DNA national focus to increase my division's organization. Little ant power to keep my troops from breaking. September 24, 2276. The Dallenius cohort officially justified a war and declared war less than a month later. But I was ready. My forts were manned and rivers held firm. The cohort's attacks just bounced off my defenses like water on a raincoat. Their army couldn't break through, and I had no power to counterattack yet. So I did what any good general would do. I held my ground and made them bleed. And to boost my industry, I took stories of family national focus, which gave me 4 sieves. By November 23, their casualties were around 2000s, while mine were a mere 116. At this point, I began assembling robotic divisions. I mixed in support robots and demolitions alongside my original infantry to add a punch. Also, to increase breakthrough, I applied the well-trained reserve spirits of division command, basically turning my army into lean, mean fighting machines. Then on 25th of February, the cohort got desperate and tried a naval invasion. Spoiler alert, it failed miserably. Shortly after that, the NCR declared war on Kaiser's Legion. That was my chance. I pushed the cohort hard and encircled some of their divisions. By July 2280, I had fully capitulated them and took all their lands. Total casualties inflicted 17,000 to my 321. Yes! With peace for the moment, I switched focus to conscription laws for more manpowers. I also improved industry and productions. I knew I would need everything I could get for future wars. And to fix the horrible debuffs that were tanking me, I went with the Realm of the Goddess national focus. Suddenly things looked a bit better. Then I started building energy cells to power up my robots. And just as I was planning a northern invasion, the hangdogs decided to start justifying against me. Classic, just when you thought you were safe moment. I planned to make a strong defensive line in the north and focus on it because down in the south there was a river line that is helping me defend against their attacks. I also put another 6 divisions in the back just to reinforce any tile that needed any help. And in April they declared war on me and attacked aggressively. The north was tough because there was no river to slow them down. The hangdogs kept attacking hard, but I kept reinforcing every weak spot just in time. Eventually their attacks ground to a halt. By July their casualties hit 12,000 while mine were only 3,000. Then I tried to attack a tile in the north to see if I will be able to break through them. My attacks seemed to be working, but they needed more power, so I ordered my robotic units that are close to assist in the attack. My attack was working, but the problem is that they keep reinforcing the tile that I am attacking. So I decided to make some pin attacks in order to prevent them from reinforcing their tile. Eventually, I was able to push and take control of the tile, and that's where I started planning my attacks. My goal was to encircle their divisions and kill them, so I can get rid of their numerical advantage over me. Through my numbers of attacks on a couple of tiles in the area, I was able to push through the north, and my chances of encircling their armies in the north increased. At the same time, I had to keep an eye on the south, reinforcing tiles that looked shaky, because if they crossed that river, the whole line would collapse. The enemy pushed back in the north, forcing me back into defense. But overall, my casualties were only 4,000 compared to their 20,000 casualties. Then, after 4 months, I noticed that the enemy forces lacked some equipment. So I took this chance and started attacking again. And this time, my attacks were more effective than before, as the enemy troops are a lot weaker now. So I started taking some key tiles in order to encircle their troops and kill them. The more I kill their troops, the weaker they become. And the killing blow was done in 15th of February, as I encircled about 30 divisions and killed them. At this point, their losses became 44,000, while I lost only 8,000. So I prepared the final assault to capitulate them, and finally, on the 18th of June, the hangdogs were capitulated. Now I needed to grow my armies even more, even though our divisions are strong, but we lack the numbers, so I had to train more infantry divisions. Now I noticed that the Mexican are becoming a lot bigger and stronger, so I had to build forts on my border with them, just in case they attack me. At this point in time, I had spent 3 hours in the game. I relied mainly on 2 types of divisions: my normal infantry divisions and my elite robotic divisions. I took a national focus that enabled me to declare war on the Black Rock Federation and its allies. I quickly moved my troops northwest, declared war, and battle planned the offensive. I didn't really need to micro this, as my army was strong enough to steamroll the enemy. Realizing I needed even more manpower, I switched conscription laws to Diana's Nightmare, which gave me 20% more recruitable populations at the cost of some negative modifiers. I didn't really care, because numbers were everything. After some time, I was able to capitulate the last country in the faction and took all the lands. Of course, with time I was able to core my newly controlled territories, which gave me more factories and more manpower. Then on the 15th of September 2284, I got invited to join Ouroboros' faction. I hesitated to accept, but in the end I did. Tension between Ouroboros and the NCR were sky high, and I expected war, and I saw this as an opportunity to beat the NCR with the help of my ally, because I cannot imagine to beat the NCR alone, so I prepared to face them. And in the following month, a war between Ouroboros and the NCR broke out, so I immediately joined it. My plan was simple: hold the north and defend my allies' territories while I strike from the south and west. Little did I know, however, that things would go so smoothly. Ouroboros was recklessly attacking with an obviously inferior army, so I had no choices but to stay on the defenses in the north while I was pushing hard in the south and west. I tried to push him from the south so I can pressure him even more, hoping to ease the pressure in the north. Fortunately, I was able to break through enemy lines in the west. His weakest points were in the south, obviously because I was able to easily push his troops. So to take advantage of his lack of troops there, I tried to encircle and kill them. I needed to meet with my other army in the north so I can make a single front line and push more aggressively. So I sent one unit there since there is a little resistance in the area. I also needed more troops in the area, so I force deployed the divisions that I was training. Eventually I was able to connect the front line in the west and was able to open a big front. So I just battle planned this since there was no real resistance. Meanwhile, the north was rough. The enemy was able to encircle my elite robotic divisions, and rescue them was impossible because there was so many enemy troops nearby. Since the enemy had a lot of troops, more than I thought, I needed to train more divisions, preparing for the worst case scenario possible, and that is the fall of my only ally. Because if he fell, my western borders will be completely open to the enemy invasions without any resistance, because my armies are busy in the south. At this point of time, our casualties was way more than them, and that was a really bad sign. So I had to keep pushing in the south really aggressively and really quickly, because my only chance at winning this is by securing the south. I was able to encircle more divisions in the south, which gave me more advantage over the enemy. I force deploy more of my elite robotic units so I can push faster and don't give the enemy any chances of responding. I continued to encircle more and more of the enemy troops in the south, again hoping for the NCR to send troops and reinforcements from the north. And to make things even harder for us, our enemy had complete control over our skies, making our push in the south hard and making our resistance in the north even harder. The situation in the north was really hard as I realized that my army is at the brink of being encircled again by enemy forces. So I quickly fell back to safety, and at this point I realized that I am racing with the enemy. If I control the south before my enemy control the north, I will have a chance of winning this war. With that in mind, I kept pushing and encircling any enemy divisions I can find until I can control the south. It is now the 6th of April 2285. We are still somehow holding the north, and the enemy's casualties are now at 56,000 while ours is at 37. And the south is almost under our control. I even tried to fight the NCR air power, but they completely destroyed me. But nevertheless, I was able to push this far thanks to my elite robotic units that I am heavily depending on. And to increase their effectiveness yet further, I added anti-air to them. About 1 month after that, I realized that I am suffering from lack of guns and manpower problems. So I need to stop pushing any further once I completely take control over the south. And that didn't take too long as I managed to encircle the remaining forces in the south. And the situation in the north now is a lot better as the enemy forces there has been weakened. And by August the same year, the enemy's casualties were exceeding 132k versus our 63. Our enemy started to crumble as I was able to make a huge encirclement in the north and I was able to kill most of his troops. Soon after that, the Mexican Republic declared war on the NCR, but I must say it is a little bit too late. And with their casualties exceeding 200k, the NCR was capitulated. And only one major country left who didn't stand a chance at all against our might. And in 6 February next year, the war that continued for more than 2 years has finally come to an end as the final country has surrendered to our advancing army. And with me having the biggest contribution to the war, I was able to take control of every piece of land. I took everything. Now only the Mexican Republic remained a real threat to me. And to face them, I started converting every infantry divisions I have into elite robotic divisions. I built airport to gain air superiority and applied superiority of metal to buff my robots even more. I expanded robot production and made my elite units 25 width for maximum power. And at 8 hours into the game, I was all in to fight the Mexican Republic. But before declaring war on them, however, I infiltrated their army to gain intelligence advantage. Also, having trained so many divisions, my economy now tanked hard. But I cannot do anything about it because I need that many of divisions if I would have any chance of defeating Mexico. And in November 2288, I declared war on Mexico. Our first sign of hope was complete control over the skies. And despite our advantage, crossing the rivers was really hard. So I pushed harder from the north where no river blocked me. Though we are having somewhat a hard time breaking through, but we are slowly breaking their armies. And to pressure him even more, I started attacking more tiles, preventing any possible reinforcements that may come. And with that, I was able to make my first encirclement in this war. As I was advancing in the war and everything was going alright, I remembered that I have a huge economic problem that is started to heavily affecting my war support and stability. But I couldn't really do much about it. The only thing I can do is finish Mexico as fast as possible before my armies become weaker. After I did a couple of good encirclements in the north, I was able to push in the south and inflict more damage and pressure to the Mexican army. With good maneuvering and with the help of our Air Force, I was able to make big encirclements in the south as well, which resulted to the crumbling of the Mexican army. I continued advancing in the same way until the whole Mexican army was unable to stop my advancement. And in June 2289, I decided to battle plan the whole thing. Every bubble was green, so I no longer needed to micro anything. At this stage, the Mexican army suffered 53k losses while I only suffered 3k. And in the new year, the Mexican Republic was finally capitulated. And we got an achievement. After I finished the war, I quickly started deleting some of my divisions so my economy can recover. Now that I am the strongest nation in the world, only a handful of small countries remained. I needed only to make justification of war against them, which took me some time to do, but I didn't do anything special with these countries. I just battle planned the whole thing and I was easily victorious. After taking on all other nations, only one nation remained. Ouroboros, our ally. And since I cannot leave the faction, I decided to use Command Council to take control over them, to kick me out of the faction, and then declared war on them, and eventually be victorious. With the fall of the last nation in the world, I was able to control the whole wasteland. And in the end, it took me only 12 hours to control the whole world in Old World Blues.